So thank you for joining us here in the Center for Teaching and Mentoring today. I'm Robin Ridgely, the Assistant Director. I'm here with Dr. Mark Abalance, who's going to be hosting our session today. I'm filling in for Dr. Sam Zaza, who was the Provost Fellow that has organized all of our AI sessions this semester, and so I want to give a thanks to her. But I also want to note that these sessions have been sponsored by the Provost Office and by the Grad AI from the College of Graduate Studies. So thanks to all of them. Our speaker today, Dr. Mark Abalance, has more than 25 years of experience with active learning in the classroom and in nature. He has extensive experience creating content and assessments within learning management systems, teaching online, and is a Learn Certified Online Instructor, or COI. He's currently the Canvas champion for the College of Basic and Applied Sciences, assisting faculty with their Canvas migration needs. So this is a timely session in that it merges both Canvas and AI. So it's very exciting, and we are just grateful that you're here. Thanks to our Zoom participants as well, and thanks to everyone in the room. Thanks.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. It is a great privilege to share with all of you how you can ignite your Canvas course with AI. I am the College of Basic and Applied Sciences Canvas champion. The champions are out of the provost's office, not the individual colleges. And so I want to start by thanking Dr. Brian Highnote for giving me the opportunity to do this. It's a wonderful experience to be the Canvas champion. I also want to thank Jennifer Vanetta Hall, the Center for Teaching and Mentoring, leader Sam Zaza, and also ITD staff who have been very helpful during my time as a Canvas champion, very helpful with this migration taking place between D2L and Canvas, particularly Karen Hine, Jimmy Williams. I had help sessions right here in the library, held help sessions as part of being Canvas champion, and it was very helpful to have Karen and Jimmy present at those. Also, Sherry Wolf in ITD has been my go-to person for all things Canvas, exceedingly helpful. All my fellow Canvas champions from the other colleges. You know, unfortunately, when you thank people like this, you always leave somebody out. So I thank that person who I've left out as well. The time to begin using Canvas is here. Summer 2026, it's days away, summer term. And beginning with summer term, all courses are taught in Canvas. So it's not that we're moving to Canvas, it's here. And most content will move from D2L to Canvas. In an ideal world, it would all move from D2L to Canvas. But in reality, some content doesn't export out of D2L and import into Canvas. Simply put, I'm encouraging you to consider using AI as you create content to replace what didn't move and also to update and expand your course, as you are, of course, always doing. A little bit about my experience. I have taught approximately 100 sections of general education, what is now called True Blue Core courses. I have been a materials developer for National Science Foundation TIDES project, kind of capped the wonderful experience of participating in several National Science Foundation curriculum development projects. And I am also a Learn Certified Online Instructor. Had the opportunity to obtain that certification back in 2020. The way I look at AI, my philosophy, what I consider to be best practices, I view AI as being like a skilled human assistant who makes mistakes occasionally. That said, successful AI use requires detailed instructions. I am experiencing using AI as being very similar to coding. I'm finding it necessary in order to get good results, necessary to craft extended, I'm talking about paragraph length prompts, and to engage in dialogue with the AI. I'm a real believer in keeping the human in the loop, reviewing, editing, rewriting, in some cases, discarding what the AI has given me, but usually just editing it. Here's an example of a 10-slide PowerPoint presentation, how I created it using AI. Now, this is a Chat GPT example. I've been using Chat GPT quite a bit in recent days as I prepare PowerPoint presentations, related scripts, multiple choice, true false prompts in advance of the new ADA compliance regimen taking effect in just 2 days at this point. This is what I'm talking about creating detailed prompts. You have to tell the AI everything to get good results. So, here I'm asking it to prepare a 10-slide presentation about El Nino and La Nina, atmosphere and ocean phenomena. I'm telling it the sources I want it to use, .gov and .edu. There are other sources of information out there, and I'm not interested in the other information that's out there for use in my introductory earth science classroom here at MTSU. I want these sources. I want information specific to Tennessee. And obviously, I'm bringing in some expert knowledge here. I know that there's a connection between these phenomena and drought and tornadoes in Tennessee. I'm telling it I want that included in my presentation. Who's it for? University level introductory earth science. I've actually found that with Chat GPT, that's not enough. Furthermore, the audience is non-STEM majors. And stylistically, based on best practices for presentations, I want each slide to contain 3 to 5 bullets of text. Each bullet should be a phrase or perhaps a single sentence. Don't want excessively text-rich slides. This slide notwithstanding. I also want a script for a 20-minute presentation utilizing the slides. And finally, I want it to create 13 multiple choice and true false prompts based on the presentation. Now, I typically use 10 prompts. Why did I ask it for 13? Usually when I do assessment, I use 10 prompts, nice round numbers, sometimes 5. If I'm using a classroom response system. Any ideas? Why did I ask it to create 13 prompts? Yeah.
You randomize your questions to choose 10?
Okay, that's a really good idea, actually. And that would be a reason to do that. Other ideas? Why would I ask it for 13 when I typically use 10? Yeah, it's a pretty good assistant, but I don't always like the results. And so I ask it for 13 because I'm going to use the 10 best ones. That's the reality of AI and using it effectively. Now, I also believe in telling students that AI is being used. I had the privilege of taking the American Association of Colleges and Universities online AI course last fall. That was following on the heels of getting to attend some wonderful AI workshops right here at the Center for Teaching and Mentoring. And I learned about this when I took that workshop, it was professional development funds from Geosciences Chair, Dr. Todd Bohr. Very thankful for that professional development. Took that online AI course. Tell students you're doing it. Tell people when they are seeing something that you have created with the assistance of AI. And I practice that in the classroom. It's an opportunity to share with students the best practices, including that one. And I share with them the necessity of crafting these prompts, very careful, very specific, almost like writing computer code. Tell the AI what you need, exactly what you need to get good results. This also leads to teachable moments, dialoguing with the students about AI. The picture here, I take my graphics from .edu and .gov websites to greatly reduce the risk that I'll get into any trouble with those pictures. Very appropriately, the picture you're seeing here comes from a Harvard University website about discussing controversial topics with students. It's happened in my classroom this term. I share with the students that I'm using AI. That's considered a best practice to tell them. And students have said, this requires a huge amount of energy, these data centers. Every time you're using that AI, it requires a huge amount of energy, and there are also environmental impacts from that. What do you think about that? And it's actually led to conversations in my classes about energy. Where is energy going to come from in the future? For data centers, but also for everything else. What do you think about nuclear? Is it really the new green? What do you think about solar? What do you think about wind? What do you think about more traditional sources of energy that have been used for decades? How do you see all of this going forward? These are moments that are actually very important, potentially, in educating our students. Now, I do also have experience with Canvas. I've been teaching one course per semester in Canvas, starting in fall 2024 and continuing through fall 2025. This term, I'm actually teaching 4 courses in Canvas. I also had the privilege of being on the Learning Management System Working Group in spring of 2025. And I mentioned my experience already, so I'll move on to the meat and potatoes, the central part of this particular presentation, which is the IgniteAI in Canvas. This is a version of Anthropic's Claude Haiku 4.5. If you go into Claude, this is the model that they say gives you the quick results. It's that one. Now, MTSU data, including most especially student data protected by FERPA, is contained. That's not going out to the internet. It's not being used to change what Claude knows. That's one of the benefits of using the IgniteAI inside Canvas. You don't have those sorts of potential issues with FERPA. You should be aware, however, that chat logs are retained indefinitely for troubleshooting and debugging, is what the information in IgniteAI says. So what's it do? And what it does is facilitate content creation, modules and pages. I'm finding some of the most useful aspects of this are in creating quizzes and rubrics, also in content analysis, flagging inappropriate discussion posts. I've created a few to test this, it works. Summarizing student responses and discussions, aiding in the evaluation of the individual responses, And there is also an Ignite AI search capability. But the bottom line to me is that AI frees up time for humans to be humans, to do the things that we do best. And I'll share a little bit more about that at the end. First, I'm going to give the Ignite AI its due. And one of the first things I did with it was ask it to create a module for me. Now, as with all these learning management systems, D2L, what we're leaving, Canvas, what we're going towards. Yeah, there's a way to go in and you click here and you click here and you click here, and you do a little bit of typing and you create a new module. But to me, asking the AI to do it in plain speech, plain typing, it's kind of like when I went from typing addresses into my smartphone to telling my smartphone, take me to the nearest gas station, for example. Yes, I can click, 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 and I have a new module. But since the AI is there, why not just open up the AI and say, help me create a new module? This is an actual dialogue. I did edit this a little bit. It's based on, everything in here is actually based on a composite of various things I've done with the AI. But most of this is actually word for word and exactly what I did. I just said, help me create a new module. And it had some questions about that, of course. AI says, I'd be happy to help you create a new module in your Introduction to Earth Science course. To get started, I'll need a name for your module. What would you like to call it? Additionally, are there any additional specifics? Where do you want it relative to your other modules? And so on. And I asked it to create a module. I teach in the geosciences department. Does anyone recognize this place? Where do you think this is? Would you like to hazard a guess?
I would say those mountains look kind of smoky.
Very good. The Smoky Mountains, and you can see why they're called that. How many of you have been to the Smoky Mountains? Yeah, all right. How many of you would like to go to the Smoky Mountains? Yeah, okay, wish you were there today. I do too. Of course, after I'm done with this wonderful workshop and getting to share with all of you. But after that, if I could go to the Smokies, I think I'd be quite a happy man. But we do have this picture to gaze upon here. Here's a picture of the Ocoee River. I'm a geosciences professor. It's difficult for me to give a presentation without including a few fun pictures of nature. I can take you there, at least in a sense, briefly. Falling Waterfalls, another Signal Mountain, another great natural location in a state that is full of so many wonderful natural locations. And I told the AI the module should be about Tennessee geology. It should go at the bottom of the modules. And AI said, I'll create a new module about Tennessee geology and I'll put it there. Then, created a module. It's just an empty module. It'd be great if it knew how to do more, right? But that's the role of the professor. I said, let's put a quiz in that module. Create a new quiz called Tennessee Geology, and the quiz should be due at this time and on this day. Well, once again, D2L, Canvas, any of these systems, yeah, I could do that by click, 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 and a little bit of typing, but why not just tell it in plain language? Since it's a pretty good AI, it's based on Claude's haiku, it knows what this means, it knows what to do. And right away, I'll do it, said Ignite AI. And it created that quiz. Example of a quiz prompt. Which province contains the Great Smoky Mountains? Now, who knows a little bit about Tennessee geology? We've got a lot of natural landscapes here in this state. Who thinks the Great Smoky Mountains are on the coastal plain? No takers for that one. How about the Cumberland Plateau? Blue Ridge? Valley and Ridge. All right, somewhere over there in the east. They got to be somewhere over there at the eastern end of the state. And the correct answer is actually Blue Ridge. So I just said add the following prompt to the quiz. And it's the prompt you saw at the bottom of the screen. That's exactly what I entered. There didn't have to be any more punctuation than that. It's like I said, it's a pretty sophisticated AI, pretty sophisticated base model. It knows that if I've got a question and I'm asking it to add something to a quiz and there are multiple choices, A, B, C, D, and then I type the word answer, colon, and the letter of the correct answer, it knows what that means. Almost immediately, it said, done! I've added that question to that quiz. And, sure, I mean, click, click, click. I could have done it that way too, but why not just ask the AI to stick the question in there? And I would like my answer choices to be shuffled. And it dialogued with me. I said, shuffle the answer choices for all prompts in the Tennessee geology quiz. Well, this is actually a little more forgiving than our most code compilers. If you're writing computer code, you make one mistake, you don't know what you're doing, your code isn't going to work. And at least historically, the compiler didn't help you out too much with that. It showed you which line was messed up and maybe gave you a hint or two as to what you'd done wrong. But IgniteAI is so much more helpful. It said, I'm unable to shuffle the individual answer choices. There's a better solution. This is what AI does. There's a better solution. There's actually a setting at the entire level of the whole quiz setting for the whole thing to shuffle answer choices. IgniteAI helpfully told me that that's what I needed to do. And then it just said, would you like me to enable the shuffle setting for the Tennessee geology quiz? And I said, yes. And that quiz was ready to go in that respect. So again, it's all things that it would be possible to do by clicking and searching through various screens and various options and so on. But why not just tell the AI to do it instead? Does anyone have any questions so far? I'm happy to take questions at the end, but I'm the kind of presenter who actually kind of likes to talk to people if there are opportunities as the presentation goes. Feel free to post in the chat if you're online. Yeah.
So Grok is not, Cloud is not free, right? It's not a free AI, right?
There is a free version and there is a paid version.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it's incorporated into Canvas. Okay. So to us as professors, the IgniteAI capability is free. The campus is paid for it, essentially. But that's a good thing to bring up. And outside of this, you can go to Claude. They do have a free version that you can use. They also have a paid version.
So can you show us in the Canvas like where to find it? Yeah. And how do we enter these prompts?
Yeah, sure. We've got plenty of time. I'm happy to do that. Let me see if I can exit this and get over here into Canvas without too much difficulty. So here I am over in Canvas. And
share screen
right here. So I need to do what?
Change your share
Change my shared screen. Okay. So stop share and then go to share and then go over here to Canvas, which I believe is this one. And you'll see the home page of my introductory earth science course. Is that what your thumbs up? Okay, very good. And it's just right up here in the upper right, this AI symbol. So I click on that, and I can ask it to do something, and there's some suggestions there. But let's say I want to ask it to create a module called example, and place the module at the bottom of my Canvas modules. So I type that in, and it thinks for a moment or two. But it's as simple as that. It's just clicking on the symbol for AI in the upper right corner. And why it is thinking about this for so long is not immediately obvious to me, because it was a fairly simple request. But there it is. I'll create a module called example at the bottom of your modules in the Introduction to Earth Science course. And then it does ask you for approval. Their thinking is that this is an important part of human in the loop. They want this kind of positive control. So I approve the agent's actions, and it thinks for a moment. And so now let's see, I go over here to modules. I'll minimize that for a moment. And I don't know what it is. It just seems kind of, internet seems a little sluggish today. But go over here to modules, and there's the example module that I just asked it to create down at the bottom. Of course, it's empty, but I could now ask it to put a quiz in there, for example. So is that kind of what is that simple? Yeah, it's just right there. Now there is a search capability, Ignite AI search, and I have not used it a huge amount. Maybe I should have been playing with it more, but kind of more natural language searching. So where do I submit my volcano assignment? Would be a prompt that would make sense for this particular course. And it does a good job of immediately pulling up the most relevant item, which is assignment, applying what you've learned to volcanic hazards. That is indeed the place where a student should be going to look for information about that assignment. The actual drop box is a little bit farther down, but it does a pretty good job with that. And one of the other things I think is really impressive is rubric creation. That's coming up. Was there anything else that you wanted to see in here?
So in the chat, there are a couple comments. So one is the Ignite AI says it cannot read files in the Canvas course.
Yeah.
So it basically uses web searches. Is that correct?
It mostly uses information that you enter into the. That's a good question. It can read like content that you've not PDF files that you've uploaded, but it can read content that you've created. So like the prompt for a discussion, it can read that. And the instructions for a paper, for example. It can read those sorts of things and then operate on those, can create rubrics based on those, for example. Now, if you need it to read text from a PDF, if you need AI to read text from a PDF, or you need AI to go out onto the internet and get those .edu and .gov sources, like the prompt I was showing earlier, and I'll go back to sharing. Happy to go back to the actual internet anytime, but I'll go back to the presentation now. But yes, that is back at the presentation. The prompt I showed earlier, that's a GPT prompt. And all the heavy lifting, I'm using GPT every other day. It's getting to be about every day now with the creation of materials to address ADA compliance, which is now just 2 days away. This is a GPT prompt that you're seeing here. And this is, this is telling it, go out, use .gov.edu sources. That's this particular prompt, but at other times I upload files. Like I've got a PDF from some source. I upload that PDF to GPT as an attachment and ask it to generate prompts based on that. So the heavy lifting I'm doing outside of Canvas.
One other question from the chat from Lisa. Does Ignite have permission to change dates on existing assignments, discussions, or quizzes? That's one. And then could I have the AI assign an extension on an existing quiz, for example?
I don't know. I have not personally tried to do either of those things. And one of the things I'm very open to is others try things with Ignite AI. I would love to hear about them. It's a way that we can all collectively build our base of Ignite AI knowledge. Any other questions in the chat? Well, as y'all think of more, just please post to the chat. I actually prefer an interactive format. Very thankful to those of you who just asked questions. It's actually my preferred way of operating. So you create modules, create quizzes, and you can also use this in conjunction with discussions. Teaching tip, I've found that MTSU has a lot of fantastic teachers, so it's mostly talking to people who already know things about how to teach in great ways. But teaching tip, use discussions. They're generally considered to be a best practice in online education. And I even use them in large in-person classrooms, which is what I work with through True Blue Core. I'll have classrooms, stadium seating, auditorium, 100 plus students in a room. Even in that format, I'll ask students to get together in groups, person behind you, person in front of you, person to your left, person to your right. At least one person has a laptop or tablet. That's usually not difficult. I would say over half the students have laptops in these courses. And I ask them to discuss a topic in person in the classroom, and then have the person who has the laptop or tablet post to a Canvas discussion. I'm actually using Canvas discussions in the large lecture in-person classroom. And the students can then look at the posts that are being made by students, together as a group, with the person who has the laptop or tablet helping. If they don't all have that, they can discuss posts and reply to posts. And had discussions of that nature in recent days. Well, one of our concerns, whenever we have discussions, one of our concerns as professors is the potential for inappropriate behavior. Now, I have found essentially none this term. Very thankful for that. Very proud of the MTSU students posting in these discussions, that they are models of good, appropriate discussion behavior. So on April 20th, I made inappropriate posts to see if AI could flag them. First post here, stupid prompt. I don't know why anyone's participating in this discussion. And then a reply, Mark isn't good at discussions. He should be thrown out of here. And then I asked the AI. I said, Ignite, analyze the Tennessee threats discussion and list any inappropriate posts or replies. This is environmental threats, by the way. So like tornadoes, floods, things like that. That's what the discussion is about. But check it out. Is there anything inappropriate in there? And it said, inappropriate content identified. Specifically, that guy. Mark Abelin's post 1, most concerning, was this one. Message, there it is. I refuse to respond to the stupid prompt. It's a prompt I hate. I don't see why anyone participated in the discussion. The AI said, dismissive language, calling the assignment stupid, discouraging participation. The AI took great umbrage at this. It flagged this post. And then the second post, this was my reply. Mark isn't good at discussions at all. He should be thrown out of the discussion. This is the AI. The AI said the issues are, this is a self-directed personal attack. There is hostile language thrown out. It said it was inappropriate even as a test. Naughty me. Well, I'm in a lot of trouble with IgniteAI. Hopefully it'll let me participate in discussions in the future. Now it did include context. This is actually from the AI. The AI included context. It said both posts include disclaimers that they were written to test AI detection, but they still constitute inappropriate discussion behavior regardless of intent. I think it's very interesting that the AI came back with that and it gave me some food for thought. That's pretty nuanced. It can do that. It went on to summarize the posts. I'm very careful to keep as much student information, even general information, as private as possible. But it summarized that it just found 2 inappropriate posts, 40 plus posts and replies were appropriate and on topic. It described substantive educational content about, and then what the students had typed, summarized, respectful engagement and replies, proper academic discussion tone. And again, in keeping as much private as possible, I'm not showing you the capability of the AI to summarize discussions, but I actually think that's one of the most useful capabilities. And it worked great with this. I could see what the students were thinking about. There were aspects of hazards that we all face in Tennessee that multiple students had obviously commented on in the discussion area. There was good information in there about public safety, how to stay safe when the weather turns foul, which it does around here, right? I mean, just within the last week, if you think back on it, thunderstorms came through Thursday night, for example. I saw a tree down out on Middle Tennessee Boulevard when I was leaving campus in the evening. The whole thing was pretty close to blocked. And there was a lot of good discussion in there. Only 2 inappropriate posts were the ones that I deliberately created. By the way, it recommended you may want to address the 2 posts by Mark Abelin's either by editing them or discussing their appropriateness with the student, depending on your course policies. I'm in a lot of trouble for what I did in that discussion area, apparently. But beyond that, you can also use this to create rubrics. First, though, are there any questions about the discussion aspect of IgniteAI? Questions, comments, thoughts? How many of y'all use discussions in learning management systems? Either online or, yeah, I'm seeing some hands.
Not a whole lot, but a little bit.
Yeah, you've used discussions a little bit. Yeah. But I'm sure some of you on Zoom have also used discussions. Well, next, I'm going to talk about the ability of IgniteAI to create rubrics. And I'm going to start with a rubric based on a discussion prompt. This is the Tennessee Threats discussion prompt. A lot of detailed information here. Best practices in teaching. I've found that telling the students some specifics is likely to get better results. So letting them know this is worth 6 points. It's got a deadline. They have to make an initial post by this date and time, and then reply to a classmate's post by a later date and time. That kind of approach to discussion was actually something I got out of the Learn program, in which I received a certification. Pick one Tennessee threat from the following list. They're given drought, extreme temperatures, wildfire, etc. There's an official state of Tennessee website they can go to obtain information about these. And they're asked to post 3 things that they learned about the threat. That's 3 points, 1 point each. They're also asked to post what they would share about the threat. That's 1 point. Why they would share it. That's 1 point. And they're encouraged to use the word because when they're explaining why. And then finally, they're asked to reply to 1 post made by a classmate. You notice that in the prompt, I didn't specify that that was one of the 6 points, but you can add up the numbers. There must be a point for that too. And the AI took that, all I had to say was create a rubric for the Tennessee threats discussion. Sure, I could go click, 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 but I just had to ask it to do this, or I guess, more grammatically tell it to do this. And it said, I'll help you create a rubric for the Tennessee threats discussion. It searched for the discussion, it found it, and analyzed the prompt, and it came up with this. And it even recognized that me asking for a reply, that's got to be worth a point. It's pretty clever. 1 point for the peer engagement, for replying to at least 1 peer. For the 3 things learned, it came up with 4 gradations. Excellent to poor, with poor being missing and a 0. It had a dichotomy. Either you got it or you don't for what I would share. Clear sharing versus completely missing. Something was shared versus something wasn't. It came up with this just from my prompt. Another example, asking it to come up with a rubric based on the content of a module. And in this case, this is a course for majors. This is 3000 level. So this is a lot more technical. The students are asked to do some field work at sites around Middle Tennessee and then combine their actual observations of nature with other information and give me a report at the end of the term. The instructions were in a module. And so I said, use information in the field report module to create a rubric for the field report. And Ignite came up with 10 items based on my instructions in that module. Pretty standard, things you would look for in a technical report. Cover page, executive summary of 500 words or less, introduction and methods with some specific items that I'm going to be looking for that they should all have. A lot of technical terminology and so on here. Again, this is actually for majors, and this information that I was looking for this was in the instructions in this particular module. It got all those details into a rubric. It recommended a scoring scheme going from 4, excellent, to 0, not included. Very useful. Any questions about rubric creation? How many of you use rubrics in your grading? Yeah, I'm seeing some hands there for rubric use.
So did it create the rubric in Canvas for you or just give you the item? So you could then, it was there, all you had to do was connect it to the assignment.
Unfortunately, it gave me the items. So I'm now going to have to, I will have to do click, 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 click to create the actual rubric inside Canvas. But it did do this using the information inside the learning management system. And if you think about it for a moment, this is one of the areas in which it can excel, because if I wanted to just use Claude outside of Canvas, I would have to like get my instructions out of Canvas. I would have to copy and paste them, or I would have to have my instructions in a PDF instead of in a Canvas page. And I would have to get them out of Canvas and then get them up into the Claude AI. But instead with this, instead of having to take stuff out of Canvas and stick it in some external AI, I can just say, Ignite AI, use what's already in Canvas, prompts, instructions I've already put in there to create my rubric. Yeah, great question. Other questions?
But it can create them as well, the rubrics. Yeah, like it can. I was creating some earlier, and the issue that I ran into is it's very particular about how much information that you give it, especially on the scoring. Like it will ask, do you want to split it into 5 columns? Do you want to split it into 4 columns or 3? And if you tell it 5, but you don't give it enough information for 5, it struggles to make up those.
It's like writing computer code.
Yeah.
To me, you have to tell it everything. Very first computer class I took a million years ago. I remember the instructor, one of the first things I learned in that class, the instructor said, people smart, computers dumb. You misspell a word, there are 12 letters in a word, 1 letter is wrong. A person looks at that person still knows what that word is. That person still knows what you meant. You type 1 letter wrong in one of these commands of computer code, and you get an error. Your code doesn't work.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue I ran into so far with making the rubrics was I think there's like 1,000 character limit on the Ignite AI when it's making rubrics for you. And so sometimes you think that you've got everything that you want for the rubric in those 1,000 characters, but you run into some interesting results.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. One might hope that it will improve in the future, but that's what we're working with right now.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments, or thoughts about rubrics? Well, thank you. I really appreciate the participation. I think it makes for presentations that work a lot better. And then Ignite AI Search, because I went into Canvas, I already demonstrated this, but this was an example from the majors course. They're asked to scan and upload some of their field notes. They go to various natural sites in Middle Tennessee. They visit those sites, they make scientific observations, and they're asked to scan and upload some of their observations. So let's say a student can't figure out where to upload their field notes for February 13th, which, it's a question I get. So, I'm happy to answer student questions, but could the student just ask Ignite AI? And here's what would happen if the student typed, where do I upload the February 13th field notes? I typed that in. The first thing that popped up was the correct answer. Ignite AI was able to figure out that it was looking for field, the number 13, and upload, and returned that. So I've not been using this much, but perhaps it's more useful than I have noticed. And finally, to me, really the point of all this is that it frees up time for humans to be humans. Now, as a human, there are many things that I would rather do than grade papers or grade other assignments, but this is something that at this point in time is going to mostly be the domain of humans, unless it's multiple choice and true false, and I do a lot of that. I work with large numbers of students, but when I'm working with majors, and even occasionally when I'm not, there's so much more richness in assessment if you can do more than just multiple choice and true false. And although there are opportunities to, within Canvas and that contained environment where student data isn't getting out onto the internet, there are some opportunities to use AI to help with evaluation, particularly in the discussions. It will look at individual discussion responses and let you know how well they conform to your prompt. The AI will do that, person by person, all the posts. Nonetheless, most education experts are going to say that grading should still mostly be the domain of human beings. All of this AI can free up time for me to do that, to give students the meaningful feedback that will enable them to grow and to prepare for careers. Also, it frees up time for all the other human-to-human interactions. And here, I'm putting it under the umbrella of mentoring. Just yesterday, a colleague, College of Basic and Applied Sciences, came to my office. He just needed to do a few simple things with Canvas. And there are a lot of resources out there, both through the Center for Teaching and Mentoring, and just on the internet at large, and through Instructure, the Canvas company. But hey, just needed to do a few simple things. He knew where to go. I'm the CBAS Campus Champion, Canvas Champion. That's why I'm the champion. So that people can come to me and get help. He just needed to do a few simple things. He came to my office and nothing flat. He got what he needed to do done. That was a human-to-human interaction. All this use of AI frees me up to do that. To me, that's the bottom line in terms of all this AI use. So in conclusion, the Ignite AI can be used to improve instruction across multiple disciplines. We're all using Canvas. This isn't specific to some department or some discipline. We're all using Canvas. While I appreciate that various people have various opinions about how to use AI or even if to use AI, there's the opportunity here to increase the effective use of AI to support student learning across multiple disciplines all over campus. And I'm very interested in helping make that happen. If you'd like to work together to use Ignite AI more, or even just with the Canvas migration going from D2L to Canvas, I'm happy to work with you. You don't have to be basic and applied sciences. I definitely have to be there for the basic and applied people, but I have plenty of time to help anyone who reaches out to me. So regardless of your college or program, just reach out. Very interested in working with you to make this migration from D2L to Canvas one that supports student learning and career preparation. Thank you so much. It's been a great honor to get to present here at the Center for Teaching and Mentoring. Does anyone have any other questions or comments or thoughts?
There are some comments in the chat.
Let's check out the chat. Let's see. How do I get to...
Saying thank you.
Thank you.
I've read, so.
So far, we've got a thank you in the chat. Questions, comments, thoughts. What do y'all think about AI? Is it really going to change things up for the better? You have concerns about it?
Yeah, I think it depends on the user.
Depends on the, that's a good point. It depends on the user, but again, like mentoring, the human stuff, we got to all learn to be more effective users of AI. And I was kind of saying, well, if I'm going to create a rubric, I'm just going to do it click, 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 click. Thank you for giving me what I need, but now I'm going to create it by clicking on all these buttons. You pointed out, well, you could actually get it to create the rubric for you.
Yeah.
It's just you really have to be specific, and it can't go over a certain length.
Pretty cool. It will take the assignment directions in mind. So like it will pull the context from the assignment as long as you click to create the rubric under that assignment. But then any specifics you give it, you have to keep it in 1,000 characters. So it asks for, I guess, specifics on the columns and then it asks for any general directions for it. You get 1,000 for both. And so you have to be, I guess, very careful with, I guess I like character limits on tweets. I don't know how I feel about them on my rubric assessments.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and we can, I was sharing, you shared some today, with all this time that's being freed up by using AI, we can get together as human beings at places like the Center for Teaching and Mentoring and learn from each other and be more effective AI users. Yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thanks for sharing the resources, but also giving up your time and willingness for people to reach out to you for support. And that's wonderful. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks, folks in the room. Thanks to people on Zoom. So have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.